A piece of tech that's been in space for over 50 years is expected to fall back to Earth sometime in the next week, as early as tomorrow. The Soviet Venus lander, called Cosmos 482, was launched, get this, back in 1972, but it failed to leave Earth's orbit. This morning, we have an expert here to help us break it all down, learn a little bit more about this spacecraft. Help me welcome Dr. Shayla Muchler. Dr. Shayla, thank you for being with me this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, I have been asking you so many questions for the last 20 minutes. I find this so fascinating. You, of course, are a local research scientist. You're the director of the Space Weather Division at Space Environment Technologies. You're also an engineer. Girl, you do it all. I am so impressed by you. Okay, tell us about the Venus lander and how it's got its name. We'll start there.
Yeah, so Venus lander was launched in 1972 during the Soviet era. And basically, its original mission was to go to Venus and land on Venus. And it didn't quite, it wasn't quite successful in this mission. So it went to escape Earth's gravity, and it didn't quite make it out. And so it's been stuck in an Earth orbit, and what we call a very eccentric orbit. Okay. So where part of the orbit is getting very low to the Earth and the other part is really far away. And it's been stuck in this orbit for the last 50 plus years.
That's crazy.
And so yeah, Venus lander is in Earth orbit.
Oh my goodness, it's not supposed to be there. What I find so interesting too, what we were talking about, you actually still use data from the satellite that you're working with now regarding weather. Can you share with me a little bit about that? Because I find that really interesting as well.
Yes, so I'm actually a space weather scientist. So what I do is
AKA she's so smart.
So what I do is research around space weather, and I do that for the benefit of satellite operations. And what we do is we actually use measurements collected of various satellites that we collect from the ground. So Venus lander is a defunct satellite. It doesn't work anymore. But we collect measurements of it from the ground in order to understand the space environment that it's orbiting through. And so that allows us to correct our space weather models for the benefit of all satellite operations. And this is just one of the about 100 satellites that we use for that purpose.
That is so cool. Okay, why is it re-entering now? And we're curious if there's any risk involved.
Yeah, so its orbit has been lowering over the last 50 years, and it's time. It's getting so low that it's going to re-enter Earth probably starting tomorrow afternoon into Saturday. So not even in the next week. We're predicting in the next couple of days.
Yeah, we were just chatting. You're like, yeah, as early as tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Things are ramping up. Do you think it's going to stay intact? I know that's a big question.
So we really don't know if it's going to stay completely intact. This satellite is about 3.5 feet in size.
It's pretty big.
It's pretty big. It weighs about 1,000 pounds.
Holy moly.
But we don't know all the details about this satellite because it was created by the Soviets, and they didn't share details about this with us. So all of the information we have is just things that we're guessing and taking off of what we know.
So interesting. You're actually working on this with a team. There's a few of you. First of all, you did tell me there really isn't a risk right now. We want to let everyone know that first and foremost.
Yes, there is not a risk. It's just a very interesting space event that doesn't typically happen because satellites usually burn up when they're re-entering.
They don't usually come back.
They don't usually hit the surface.
So one of the folks on your team actually did some data of where, because that's the question, where is it going to land? Where is it going to re-enter? And it could literally be anywhere. The projections are crazy.
Yeah, so since we're a day or more out, we really don't know. Our latest predictions were run last night by Charles Constant. He is a PhD student at the University of College London, and he's predicting that it could really be anywhere at this point.
It's crazy.
As it approaches, I'm expecting that tomorrow morning we'll have better predictions and we'll be able to narrow down where we think it's going to re-enter. But it's very similar to traffic coming here from Boulder to Denver. Yeah. It's that, it could be anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes for me to get here, but I won't really know until I get on the road, until I get closer, how long it's going to take. Very similar with Venus lander. As it gets closer to its reentry, we're going to know a lot better where it's going to reenter and hit the surface. and exactly when.
I love the traffic explanation because I do the traffic. No, that makes so much sense. That's so cool. You are following this closely. We're almost out of time. You have a website we can actually go to track along with you. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, I believe it's spacewx.com, and it's our news article on there. You can just search Venus Lander as well on Google and to find some articles.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Dr. Shayla Mutchler, thank you so much for joining me. I feel so much smarter now.
Thanks for having me.